This video will be a part 2 sequel to the first video, part 1, about Elder Joseph the Hesychast in terms of who, what, where and when. And the source material for this book is by Elder Joseph of Vatopedi, also known as Elder Joseph the Younger, or Elder Joseph the Cypriot. And here are the details that I can use from this book to supplement the information already in part 1 of the series. So our Elder Joseph the Cypriot was born in Cyprus in 1921, and he took the name of Socrates in the world. Now when he's aged 16, he joins the Cypriot monastery of Stavrovouni in 1937, and he's there till 1945, when he's 24 years old. In that monastery he took the name Sophronius as a monk. Then he went to Mount Athos, and for 2 years he was looking for a spiritual father until we know, in 1947, he joins the Brotherhood of Elder Joseph the Hesychast in 1947, 1948. Right. Now, it's worth going to Wikipedia to look at Elder Joseph the Younger, Elder Joseph of Vatopedi, Elder Joseph the Cypriot, to get a lot more information, because in part 1, after the repose of Elder Joseph the Hesychast, it was just stated that Elder Joseph of Vatopedi, he got his own brotherhood, he went to Vatopedi and populated that, but there was a lot more in between that, and I won't go into it because it's off topic, but you should look at what he did after the repose of his Elder Joseph the Hesychast, and until he finally got to Vatopedi. All right. Back on track, when the Brotherhood were with the Elders Joseph and Ephraim the Barrelmaker in Katonakia, those two elders, Joseph and Ephraim the Barrelmaker, they were brothers in the flesh, natural brothers, and they were from Epirus, which basically is getting up to what we know now of as being Albania. But they weren't the only two brothers. There were 4 of them. There were 4 brothers in the flesh. The other 2 were Nicholas and Nicodemus. We know from part 1 that, more information, Daniel the Hesychast was liturgizing in his own chapel, in his own place, a katisma, meaning it has a chapel, as we know, in the place of St. Peter the Athonite, and that was, as we know, out near the Great Lavra, beyond Gria Nera. But it seems that while the brother, Francis, soon to become Elder Joseph the Hesychast, and Father Arsenius were at Katonaki, were out with Elders Joseph and Ephraim the Barrelmaker, they were confessing, these two were confessing to Daniel the Hesychast, because St. Basil's wasn't far from where Daniel the Hesychast was, and obviously they wanted to confess to him. Right. At St. Basil's Skeet, Father Ephraim, later of Volos, joined them there, as we know, and Father John from Epirus, again, we can call it the location of Albania. One detail worth noting is that when the Brotherhood moved to the small Skeet of St. Anne, Father John stayed at St. Basil's Skeet. And, of course, Father Joseph, Elder Joseph, the Hesychast brother in the flesh, Father Athanasius, joined them there at St. Basil's Skeet. Now, when they moved, as we know, to the small Skeet of St. Anne's, and 1947 or 48 thereabouts, our Elder Joseph the Cypriot, we know, joined the Brotherhood there, but at first he was refused. They said, no, we just have no space. It's a precipitous cliff, there's just no standing room there. But they prayed over it for one night, and he was accepted the next day. Confirmed by this book that we're using now, confirms that detail that it was because of the post-war situation and the civil strife there, it was common for the monks and the dependencies, the outlying districts, to go to work for the large monasteries, for economic reasons. Another detail about the life at St. Anne's Skeet is that this Elder Joseph, the Cypriot, the Younger, and our Elder Ephraim, Johnny Moretes of Elder Ephraim Philithau and Arizona, they were the ones that put pressure on Elder Joseph to allow them, the younger ones, to follow the extreme strict regime in terms of prayer and fasting that they were doing. So that was a good detail to know. Another detail is that while they were there at the small skeet of St. Anne's, St. Joseph the Hesychast was sending food, even though they had no food of their own. He was still sending whatever food he could to other elders, infirm elders at Carulia, southwest Mount Athos. Another detail is that when they finally decided to move to New Skeet for their health, it was actually for the health of the younger ones. So the Elder Joseph the Hesychast agreed to move, because the young ones, Joseph the Cypriot and Ephraim, Johnny Moretus, their health was getting wrecked by the regime at the small skeet of St. Anne's. So I thought that was interesting. And in the previous video, part 1, we learned that when they went to St. Basil's Skeet, the huts that they were given, I didn't mention it in that video, but they were wrecks. There was no floor, hardly walls, no roof, no windows, no doors. But the reason that I've learned from this book is that in the Civil War, the government of Greece had put all of the shepherds and their flocks on Mount Athos for their own safety. And the shepherds ran wild over Mount Athos. They were just ripping up floors, burning the wood, so that's why the huts at New Skeet were in such terrible condition when our Brotherhood arrived there. Now, final factoid, just like at St. Anne's, they built a chapel to St. Forerunner, to St. John the Baptist, the Forerunner. The reason was our Elder Joseph could hardly walk around because of his swollen legs, because of the hyperalbuminemia. Anyway, they really needed their own chapel. And the same here at New Skeet. Again, they built a chapel of their own, again dedicated to St. John the Forerunner.